The reality is about your cup is you could buy that at any dirty gas station around the world. This
No,
bulk
you
pony
couldn't.
cup, this bulk pony cup right here, there's like only one of 3 of these in the world. This right here, have you ever seen one of the Indiana Jones movies where they're going deep back into caves trying to get that rare relic? There
Yeah, yeah.
is going like hundreds of
The
years from
chalice,
now, they're going to be doing that looking for the bulk pony cup.
the small chalice, the small dirty one that you just called mine, basically.
I don't think that's ever going to make it into
So
an
this is
Indiana
from
Jones movie.
Sainsbury's, and like you can't get them anymore because I tried to. So this is limited edition too.
To a specific gas station you got it at, or is that actually from something you earned?
Sainsbury, Sainsbury's is like Trader Joe's or
Uh,
yeah, Whole
what
Foods or
what's the name of that incredibly nice restaurant in the heart of London? The one, not restaurant, the grocery store in the heart of London. It's so nice, and it's got
you've really
shopping.
you've really narrowed it down.
Come
Heart of
on, you know what
London.
I'm talking about. It's iconic. It's got like all of the premium level, like all the most
Harrods?
premium. Yes,
Yeah, 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 yeah. All right,
that
fair.
place is special. That I think Harry Potter came out of that place because it's just like it's a mythical beast. I go in there and I'm like,
Magical.
it's yeah, it's a labyrinth. There's like all the staircases are tiny. You go down to certain places and the ceilings are this high.
Honestly, I have a better time at M&S. Have you been to M&S?
No.
Oh, yeah, you have. You have.
What's
We
an
went to
M&S?
M&S. It's called Marks and Spencers, and it's just well good food. Like they got Percy pigs, and they've got
What's a
like Colin
Percy pig? Is that
Caterpillar.
kind of like spotted dick?
No, it's a sweet and it's
Spotted cow.
unreal. It's unreal. And they've got Colin Caterpillars, like a chocolate Swiss roll cake.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just if you know, you know. If you don't, you should get to know.
We have a whole flow to this show, and I think we're just going to throw it out the window today because I wanted to like catch up and obviously I want to catch up with you, but there's like things that went on that I think are interesting to bring up. And since you're a track and field athlete, I think it's interesting to bring this up. And this guy Cameron, who's in our comments, immediately brought this up. So the CrossFit Games just went on this weekend. And
Yeah.
I love the CrossFit Games. I drink literally water out of my CrossFit Games cup every single day. I'm really lucky that they gave me the opportunity and the honor to be able to compete there. Um, Interestingly enough, these guys do really love to dub that they're the fittest people on earth. They had a 5K this weekend, and these guys are, belching all over town about how incredible these
I saw
athletes
this.
are,
I saw this.
how incredible these athletes are, and how
Uh-huh.
fast they are. And then all of a sudden, my buddy Jack Bauer, who basically is he might as well have like a Harvard level education for some kind of like data science. He is just the guy who breaks down everything in every sport to the umpteenth degree. And he sent me this to go to show that these guys really skipped, you know, 800 meters worth of work, which at the end of a 5K is the most important 800 meters.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that, and I saw the times before it, and I wasn't that impressed beforehand with the handicap. So
Yeah. I just don't know how I feel about this because these guys, I'll admit, I get shit on by the CrossFit community constantly because they're insecure. It's what they got in their pants is a little bit smaller than what I got in mine. So they're always having a hard time when I'm in town. But I will say this is the first time I've been able to really catch them with their pants down, looking like idiots. It'd be almost like if they did an Olympic lifting event and they took about 10 to 20% weight off the bar and were claiming that they lifted really heavy. I
yeah,
think what they did
but
was
to be fair,
impressive.
it's not their fault. It's the organizers' fault. Like who did that?
Who marked the
Like
course?
who measured that out and was like, yeah, go run that. It's fine.
I will say, when I participated at the CrossFit Games, it was the most impressive thing I've ever seen or witnessed in my entire life as far as event production. I mean, it is above and beyond anything I've ever done by probably 10 to 20 times the scale. And I'm sure you've recognized that at super high level like cross country or probably track and field events. It's a game of logistics of moving people around the field efficiently and timing. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I don't give them a hard time about that, but I will say, I did the data on this. Like the fastest guy ran a 5:54 mile for a 5K, which is in reality is a junior varsity result. Like you would not make the varsity
Yeah.
team in a high school team. but
Yeah.
it's amongst all the other stuff. Are you, I mean, through all the stuff that you've done in your career, have you dabbled in any of this kind of stuff? Have you always stayed in your lane?
Honestly, I want to. I have spoke about doing Hyrox, if anything, like 2 years ago. It first came on my radar, and I think I'd be really good at it because I'm strong bottom end, like I'm strong quad and glute dominant. Which
Got
is
the
why I'm
thunder
more.
thighs.
Yeah, exactly. But I can't dabble with it with the position I've been in. So in college, I went to the US, and I was doing a scholarship. So like you sign off your life to become 5 years doing like track and field, and that's all you do. Like I couldn't even go on skiing trips, or in my free time, it was all about making sure I was like doing everything for training. So I couldn't dabble with things that would limit me from track and field, cross country, getting back ready for season starts, which is fine. I'm not arguing that. And then CrossFit hasn't really intrigued me. It's a little bit too intense for me. Like I'm a bit more like VO2 engine,
You're
and
a
I
bit
don't
softer
think,
around the
yeah,
edges.
yeah, maybe, but I haven't done it, so I can't really make that comment. But I do want to dabble in it, but not right now. Obviously, I'm a pro runner, so it's against my contract to start dabbling with other sports.
Yeah.
I've
Ryan, would you
been.
mind bringing up our Instagram just so we can give everybody some context?
Sure, sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't
Oh
mean to
boy.
cut you off, but I think it's important that people get to see what you do. And you're primarily, I mean, you can break everything down for me, but as I understand it, you're a middle distance runner for GB. And as I understand it, you're number 2 ranked currently.
It's difficult based on what.
1500 meter. That's your specialty?
That's my specialty, and I came second at Europeans, so
So
that's like in Europe,
you
not
have to
Well, I
explain this to me because
apologize.
yeah, what is
On your
that?
Instagram, it says third medalist at the Europeans, or on
third.
wherever I got my info. I apologize.
Yeah,
Just
not
bring up
third.
our Instagram
Silver.
page. You can put it on the screen. So
What?
you're a middle distance specialist, and we're for people that don't know, like we're talking 800 meter, 1500 meter.
Yeah, for people that don't know, let me just do a quick elevator. Okay, so middle distance specialist, 800. People would class probably the 800 to the 1500. Some people would class the 5K as middle distance.
That's a big
Five,
gap.
yeah, 5K to 10K is more longer stuff, but I guess middle distance is probably anything maybe under like 12 minutes of like hard running. I would say. Um, so I do the 8 and the 15 from college. So when I was 17, went over to the US, 18, did 5 years and just specialized in the 8 and 15. But I also did, in order to be a good 15 or a middle distance runner, as you would know, and as anyone listening would know, is like you still need to have that basic like groundwork of like cross country, the longer runs, like the slog miles. You got to have a good aerobic base in order to be good at the 8, the 15, the mile.
Yep.
So I've had to do not had to, like I've trained since I don't know, like 13, 14 on these longer runs, and then continued throughout to the point I am now. So when people say I'm a middle distance specialist, yes, but in order to be a very, very good middle distance specialist, you still need to be able to handle a 5K, a 10K, and even like I dabbled with a half last year, which was the longest I've gone. And I did all right at it. So it's something that I would look to do in the future, and specialize a little bit more in. But obviously, I've done 15 years of my life just in the 1500 and training for that predominantly.
There's a lot of thirst trap pictures on here, by the way.
Good. They're working.
A lot of thirst trap pictures, like speed,
How
and
is that a
then
thirst
look at
trap?
that. That's a thirst trap picture.
That was
What's going
Ibiza.
on?
That is a hangover picture in Ibiza. That is not a thirst trap.
It's
That
a
is.
thirst trap picture. I could not put that on my page. My mom would never let me. My mom would never let me. I would be
Hey, my
scolded.
mom's pro. My mom's pro thirst trap. She's like, you got it, flaunt it, girl. So, I'm
No,
not gonna sit around when I'm 60 and have any regrets.
I
Go and
was
do it
raised in a
now.
Roman Catholic house, and if I'm not wearing a poncho covering every inch of skin, my family is completely thrown off by my poor behavior. The Lord doesn't need to see your skin, so nobody else does either, Hunter.
Can we
Didn't you
just
do a
bring up,
naked photo shoot,
Hunter's
Hunter?
Instagram?
Ryan, the connection is not going to allow that, so why don't you just skip past that note, Ryan? So just to give people an idea of why, how Holly and I connected, I finished Highrocks World Championships and I went on a bender, which I always do. I'm not promoting alcoholism or any kind of ism. I just think it's really important to focus extremely hard and then allow yourself the breath of a release mentally. I do it through drinking and meeting people, getting out of my specific element, because I usually just live in my train tracks of lifestyle for high level competition. And I never would get to meet all these amazing people around the world if I didn't stay up past 10 o'clock, drinking beer, having conversations, walking around to pubs, getting to know people. I'm not like hanging out under bridges drinking. I'm getting to know the world. So I show up with a little bit of a hangover, beer still on my breath, to a run club put on by this company called Pure Sport. Awesome company out of the UK. And they're like, hey, I'm like, I just want to get to know the community. And they're like, all right, we're going to drop some. I think we like started out with 200. We were doing 200s and
Sixes.
we did 600s.
Yeah, it was 4 6s, 4 4s, 4 2s.
Oh, okay, so you memorized it. I think I actually bailed on the 200. Sorry,
You did.
I bailed on the 200s. So I'm tuned up, and we start going, and there's always just two guys who have to drop their balls on the track first set, and they smoke me. And I was like, okay, cool. Let's see what happens the second time. Guess what? They're not there the second time. Now I'm out for the third one, and I hear these feet behind me, and there's a girl. And I was like, who the fuck is this? Is she part of a different group? Because there was different groups running on different sides of the track because there's so many people. And I was like, this girl must be in the wrong group. Next set, this girl's like 6 inches behind my heels. I was like, what the heck? So now
Meanwhile, I could feel that he was so agitated at this point.
Of course I was agitated. I showed up to drink beer and give high fives, and now I'm about to get chicked. And I was like, there's not a bone in my body that's going to let myself get chicked after just winning a world title less than 5 days ago. I was like, ain't in my system. So I just start throwing down the gas, and I push it way beyond my means because I was not ready for this. And by the time it got to 200s, I was like, guys, I'm out. So I walked away before she could get me. But I at least got about good 6 to 8 repetitions where I beat her out. But if I got into the 200s, I would have gotten nailed. I would have gotten nailed for sure. So I immensely respected this girl for being out there on the track and putting in some heat. And then we got to start hanging out and start getting to know the London run community a little bit better. So we invited her into, Team Builder to help grow what we're doing out there and help grow our running community and what we got going on. So she's going to help launch our run club on Wednesday this week. We just had the one in the United States. So, we have her on the show just to introduce you guys and also get to understand how you became such a savage on the track and almost took down the man. Almost took down the man.
Hey. You know what? That's one of my biggest regrets. I could have done it.
Not a fucking chance, dude. You understand? There's a turbine in my right ass cheek. If I press my tattoo on my ass cheek, it engages. And that's how I get that extra thrust like you see in Gone in 60 Seconds or in Fast and Furious.
Yeah, that's why you had to sit out on the twos. But
that's your NOS.
That's right, dude. Yeah. That's right. Are you drinking an energy drink?
Celsius.
That's considered an energy drink.
It has, to be fair, it has 200 milligrams caffeine. Your pre-workout has 2 millis of caffeine.
All right, just double checking.
Coffee has 200 too.
No, actually, I think coffee has less than that. It just depends on the volume of what you put in.
Oh yeah, double espresso.
I love
doing espressos today.
So we met on the track, and I've gotten to know Holly, and I'm wickedly impressed by her. And I kind of I'd like to get to know you at a higher level. Usually we just shoot the shit, and I'm usually ragging on you for half decent workouts. So if you'd like to go on a roller coaster ride, I'd like to start asking questions.
Go for it. And I'm glad that you actually told the story, like how this is the first time he said this. Usually he's like, doesn't give me a compliment. So I respect that. And
It's a rare day.
yeah.
I don't
Now
have
I know
enough
that-
breath in my lungs to share compliments. All right, guys, I'm using it for other shit.
Now I know that you actually dubbed out on the 200s. That makes me feel better because I knew it.
100%. I had to get out of there.
Do this. I was like,
I was
nah.
looking
was
around. I
just
was like, oh
warming up.
shit, dude, I'm about to
I was
get greased.
just warming up.
I'm about to get greased. That's your specialty, okay? And I'll give
Yeah,
it to you. I was on the edge of death. So
Mhm.
I did not want to get scalped by a chick in front of all these people in London. So I left the party soon. Let me just double check here. We got some notes coming in. Off stating the course had been measured 3 times. You made a point repeating. That's a commentary. Yeah.
CrossFit.
I don't
Is
know
that
what to tell you guys about CrossFit. And the CrossFit competition has evolved into a higher level of skill, particularly gymnastics. Very time consuming learning for newbies without gymnastics. I think that's why things like Hyrox are becoming super interesting for athletes. Like you could walk in within the first year, within the first 3 months and be proficient in all these movements. It will take you years to become excellent at all these movements, but you could compete. Even Holly could step in from her background and still be somebody who's putting the gas on things. And if she wanted to get better, all she would have to do is put more time into it, because her high level capacity just allows her to step into it. Whereas, somebody like Holly would have to completely rearrange her life to become a CrossFit athlete, and respectively so, it's a skill sport.
Definitely the part that I saw where they were doing handstand walks into touch the head down and shoot your head back up. So I don't know that person just walking off the street can just do handstand walks,
Well, that's what took me out of the CrossFit games, and I give it to them. They are way better than me at that. But I'm a big motto of real athletes walk on their feet, not their hands. So, the rest of the world, we're putting the grease down on sports where we're walking on our feet. Every single sport in the world, even high level gymnasts don't really walk on their hands at all. It may be something that you teach like 5-year-old kids to get their proprioception up. Yeah, sure.
Just
But I
to
just
work
didn't.
the core, but not at like at a competition level of who can walk on their hands the best.
Well, I always have the metric of whether or not I'm going to get involved with something and how invested I get in it based off of if I could sit down across from the table with my dad and tell him and not be embarrassed. And if I told my dad that I was training to walk over staircases on my hands, he would disown me as a child. So I had to stop. I had to walk away. All right, let's go back to Holly, the real focus of this thing. So I really just wanted to kind of get to understand. I think this is always the most interesting thing, is understanding the seed of an athlete's inception. And, you grew up in the UK and you've told me about the farm. I don't know if that's exactly where you were raised, but at some point in time, you had to have a moment. And I'll give mine briefly, so you can have a little bit of something to pin off of. But there's a moment where you knew that you were fast. You had something.
Mm-hmm.
My example is when I was like in 5th grade, we did the mile around the cul-de-sac at our school, and I won. And then I like hacked up a lung for a day and I had to go home. But I was like, there's something there though. There had to be a moment for you.
Yeah.
What was your moment?
Mine is very similar. So back when I was so we don't have, your graded, the way our school system is slightly different. So we had like primary school, secondary school, and then you go on to like, not, it's like high school, but ours is more segregated. Your school system is like you're going to school with 18-year-olds and like 14-year-olds. So ours is just a little bit more separated to like help bridge the gap. But anyway, so I was in middle school at this point, and all you need to know at middle school, you're around I think 11 to 14. So it's like 3 years. And basically it's to stop, like when you jump up a year, to stop kids from growing up too quickly, from like a 13-year-old hanging out with like people at their school could be 18. So anyway, I was at middle school and we had double PE every Friday and
2 sessions. You guys were doing doubles as kids?
2 gyms?
PE. So
damn, that's why you guys are far more advanced than us. Fucking the United States sucks.
We had double PE, and like you could pick, like you could have like food tech or woodwork, like that was the Friday thing. So in the morning, all of our year group would have, hang on, my laptop's about to switch off. Anyway, in the morning, we would have double PE. And so what we'd have to do was, back in those days, we could run off the school property. You can't do that now because, I don't know, rules and
Kidnapping
health and
children.
safety.
Yeah.
Exactly. So basically, we would, the PE teacher would set the route. Everyone just knew the route. We knew the area. We'd start on the school field. We'd run out the hedges, round like the school. Round. Everyone would have a fag round the back of the shed. They'd stop, and then
Gotta
you
get me
go
some
over there.
fags.
I remember we'd go over this pond, past these rugby pitches, back round a housing estate, and back into the school. And I don't know, it was probably about 20 minutes of running, but it felt longer when you were like, when I was that young. It was probably like 2.5 miles. So it wasn't that far, but it felt like it was a long time. Anyway, that was back when I didn't even have a pair of running shoes. It was plimsolls. We're talking like, I don't know, 2006, 2005. Like, I'd never ran before. I didn't like team sports because we had netball, which is similar to you, but it's like lacrosse.
Tennis?
Yeah.
It's more like lacrosse. Volleyball. Anyway, there's like netball, hockey and stuff, but I didn't like it because the girls weren't competitive enough for me. So like, do you know what I mean? You need a team around you that's gonna like match your energy. And like, I just didn't feel like the school that I was at, like there was like 2 or 3 sporty girls and that was it. I wasn't sporty, but I guess I don't know where I got my sporty side from. No one in my family does sport. No one. So it didn't come from
Same
my family. So it was just me. And anyway, this cross country with my plimsolls on, I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to send it. So all the other girls are like in the changing rooms, like not going out and doing it, or stopping, hiding behind a shed and like cutting the corners. So I do this cross country race and I finish and I come 5th. And like, I barely walked. Like, I refused to walk. And like, for like a 12-year-old, that girl, like, I thought that's pretty good, who's never run before. So anyway, I got to the end and I was expecting my teacher to be ecstatic. I remember him right now, Mr. O'Neill. I was expecting him to be ecstatic. I'd beaten majority of the boys in my year and there's 4 like classes and I come 5th. I was like, hell yeah, like this is going to be good. And then
5th overall or 5th including chicks?
5th overall, including chicks. I was the first girl. Only 4 boys were in front of me. And those 4 boys were like playing a lot of like football, like soccer. So, I was like, okay, there's something in here. And then the teacher pulled me aside in front of everyone and he said, you've cheated. Reese Rodway, I remember the guy who said, Reese Rodway, same year as me, said that you cheated. And I was like, wow. And I didn't know what to do. So I started crying. I don't know why. I think it's because I was so proud that I'd done what I'd done. And then for somebody to turn around and tell me I cheated, I was like so angry.
I got to think about that teacher. What a deadbeat. I think about
now.
Yeah, I think about myself, and I compete against a lot of people and people that I know may have cheated, but there's no point in telling them. Oh, bye, Holly.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
But
sorry,
all right, well, we'll see you.
that was a great having her on the show. Let's move on to more important things.
I'm listening.
No, but I cannot imagine being that teacher. I just where what's the benefit? I mean, have you gone back
Or
to
to even
find that
verify,
guy
like,
just,
hey, there has been an accusation. Tell me what happened.
Yeah,
Instead
I mean,
of saying,
okay.
you cheated.
Yeah, maybe I think he may have like grabbed me and said, look, did you cheat? And I said, no. I said, no, I didn't. But at the end of the day, you've got a girl, 12-year-old, and you've got a guy that's playing football that's just been beaten. And he was just like, look, did you cheat? I said, no. He brought us both in front of each other. And he said, Reese said you cheated. And I was like, okay, I didn't cheat. And then I started crying and I went to the
let's
locker
do
room
it
and
again.
cried.
Yeah,
Huh?
let's go again, boy.
Let's run it again.
No, so then what happened was I got detention. So after school detention, writing out, I remember science textbooks. It was in the science lab with the big tables and whatnot. Anyway, my dad picked me up and I got in trouble a little bit at school, but more for being cheeky rather than naughty, if that makes sense. Like not naughty, but like just answering back or like, not for doing anything rude. Sassy or whatever. So when I got a detention for this, like my dad was like, I think it was a little bit taken back. And I remember him sitting me in the car and he just goes to me, did you do it? And I said, no, I didn't do it. And so he said, right. So what we did was he signed me up to a running club. and I went to my first ever running club at the age of 12, and he bought me a pair of running shoes, and we trained for the next one. So I only trained once a week at that age. And I think I loved it so much that we started going twice a week. So he would like whiz home from work, pick me up, take me to training, wait there at training with me and come home. So I did that, and I started progressing very quickly. So yeah, then when I had the next one, I literally couldn't sleep that night. Like I was like wiggling in my bed, like my shoes were on before like 9 p.m. the night before. I was like, I'm so excited
ready
to
to
race.
go.
And so I like went to that race, and oh my god, like everyone, and I just kept quiet, and I put my like ASIC gels on, which were what they were like
Fresh.
the best shoe. Yeah.
Very
And
fresh.
I remember like I just sent it, and I went with the lead guy, and then the last like corner I won, and my dad had told him stand on the corner that she's been told that she cheated on, and then that's the only corner on the course because you have to go out the school, over the pond, over the rugby pitches, and then the corner that he was saying I cheated on is the only bit with like a housing estate that meant you could cut through it. So I was like, right, stand on that corner. He said, my dad said, stand on that corner. Obviously, Mr. O'Neill, stand on that corner. And yeah, I won the thing, and he then made me stand up in assembly, and I made the running team. And then from that point onwards, I literally won everything in the area. So like everything in my county, I was just like the champion for like 6 to 8 years straight, because that was just then became my niche. And yeah, that's how it started. So in a way, I need to thank that that teacher. And
Do you run straight across the finish line, right? Do a cock punch?
And did you give him the number one fan sign?
No, I didn't, but I did just look at my teacher like with a little raised eyebrow. Now I would, but 12-year-old Holly wasn't as cocky. But now, well, to be fair, I think I did my statement. I let the running do the talking, and that's all I needed to do. But
I
yeah,
couldn't control myself in similar situations. I'll give you a similar one. I was racing against one of our rival schools. It was the 3,200 meter. I was good at the 3,200 meter and throwing javelin. Two totally different events. And this
right.
kid was important to beat, and he was doing that dick move where you just keep on getting in, like holding in front of somebody, and like, you're supposed to be able to pass. And as I try to pass, you'd push out. And I just like I was like, you motherfucker. And I just came out around and I gassed him, and I got him on the last 2 laps, and I beat him by a good 20 seconds. So I come across the finish line. I'm just constantly there, and he comes across, and I was like, oh, fuck you in front of everybody. I lose all of the points. I get disqualified from the team for a couple of meets. But fucking A, did everybody know that I had a pair of wheels on me, and also people knew not to mess with me at track and field events anymore. But that's the difference between British charm and an American's brashness. So you get it. You're on the team. You are now on the path to being one of the best. Where did you know that basically from that point on that you really had something, or were you just kind of doing it because it was something to do?
A little bit of both, because obviously I was winning quite a lot of like local races, breaking some records, and then I ran fast enough to get scholarship to the US. So at that point, when I found out about scholarships, I was like, I'm going.
Where'd you run again?
What's that?
Where'd you run?
I ran at SMU in Dallas, Texas. Southern Methodist University. And like, yeah, it's crazy because everyone says like, why there? Like what made you go there? But when I explain, it's like, it was 2011. There was no Instagram. There was like Snapchat had just surfaced. How I had no idea about scholarships and stuff. There just wasn't that like online presence that there is now. And also it's interesting because like everyone's like, well, how did you pick that? I had never been to America before. How would I, if I told you guys, okay, come to a school in the UK and I'll give you a list. Like I think I had a list of like maybe 20 people, like 20 schools would offer me a scholarship. And I was like going through this list and I was like, oh my God, like how on earth do I pick a school that's right for me? And it's the same. If I gave you a list of like British schools, like the only thing you could do is like maybe look at
Google existed.
Google existed, but the websites were literally the same WordPress, all the same, different logo. One was a dog, one was a cat, one was a tiger.
This is the difference between guys and girls. So when all of a sudden the narrative of like, where are you going to go to school starts popping up regularly. So I have to do my own research. I don't think about the opportunity of education. I thought about babes. So I all of a sudden started Googling. I was like, where are the best party schools?
Hottest
Where
chicks.
are the hottest girls? And there's total like blogs and articles about where to go with the hottest chicks. Like I knew I was going to UCSB before anybody else knew where they were going to school. I was like, I'm going to go to Santa Barbara. There's this place called Isla Vista where they have the most iconic, the number one party of the year of all colleges was Isla Vista Halloween parties. And the babes there were off the charts. Arizona State, as he's saying, was big. You had Alabama, you had Auburn, you had Ohio State. And like, I just knew, I was like, who gives a shit about education? This is basically a concentrated babe graph that I'm looking at right now. Like, I could read books at any of these schools, or I could run at any of these schools, but if there's no chicks there,
what are you going to do?
Yeah.
But also, like, you've grown up with like 4 years at that point in high school where like the topic of, from me being in the US for the amount of time I've been in there, I realized that going to like college is such a big deal. Like it's not as of a big deal in the UK. Like most people actually graduate without going to college. They finish school at 17, 18, they go get like become a plumber, become an electrician, start their own woodwork business. Like it's not a big deal if you don't go to college over here. So that's why I was like, I didn't know like to even look up. So how I did it was I literally just went on what's the most expensive school. That's how I made my decision. And that was it.
Did you get a full ride scholarship?
Full ride, 65K a year, private university. And I'm coming from a background that is rough around the edges. I went to a place in outside of London, like outskirts of London, where it's like it was an overspill of London. So back in like the I think it was the 70s, basically London got overpopulated. So they basically took like a rough end of London and just plopped it like on the outskirts, and literally nothing happens there. Literally people get pregnant at 16 and they stay there. That were my friends. I'm still in contact with them, but literally not one of them has gone and done anything with their life. Like a few.
Sounds like Crestline.
A few. But it's just, yeah, it's just known like. So anyway, I was just like, I've come from an area where that was a big step, like to have a full ride and honestly just a really good education, because that's just something that like we go to schools here that they're free. We don't have to pay for our schools. Like until you're 18, everything's free, but you get the minimum quality unless you go to a private school. So, you know, the teachers don't care. They're paid on the hour and then they go home. They really don't care. And like education's almost about like just doing enough to get through the curriculum to like pass the government.
What was the recruiting process like for you? Like were these schools flying you out, especially in the States? Did they fly you to the States to be like, hey, this is what we offer, here's our gym, blah blah blah?
Some did, but most of them would send me like big packets where I'm like on the newspaper, like a fake newspaper. And like I remember that was the one from Pittsburgh like put me on like a newspaper, and I was like, oh wow. And like they knew how to market. I was just like, as a 17-year-old girl, I'm sold.
A business.
Like,
it's a business.
Yeah, it was a business. Once I was out there, like 2013, 2014, they started doing the fly-in recruitment visits if you were really good. I didn't get a fly-in. I didn't choose to. I just was like, I'm going to go to this school, commit to it, and just saw it through. Just didn't really have any regrets. I think you can make the most out of anywhere where you go. Do you know what I mean? That's how I saw it. I was like, as long as I have a pair of trainers and a coach that's going to help me, and we go into all the right races in the right direction, then that's all you really need. And I was very fortunate. I had a really good school. I had a really good like education, private school, got like a great degree and a master's in like 5 years. And I had a best girls team. We had an all girls team, made some friendships for life, traveled across America. And although it wasn't like one of the best and well-known running schools, it wasn't. Oregon is, and you've got Colorado where altitude is, and New Mexico, like the places where altitude is are normally the really good running schools. Although it wasn't one of those schools, it enabled me to be one of the best at the school I was to, and I just enjoyed it. And I think I like thrived there. If I'd gone to another school, it may have been a different story. I might have been a small fish in a big pond and not got on the team. So yeah, it's an interesting one.
Northern New Mexico is it MMU? Northern Arizona. Northern Arizona University. NAU is a solid school.
Yeah, really solid. Good.
Boring
Yeah,
as all
they
hell.
run. Yeah, they're at 7,000 feet or like training. So of course, like when they go down for races, they're gonna dog on everyone. Like,
Yeah.
they have that, but that's why you go to them schools, and it is harder to get into them schools. So you could be a sub 14-minute 5K runner and not make the top 7. And if you don't make the top 7, you're not traveling. And if you're not traveling, you're not racing. And if you're not racing, you're not gonna learn,
Wasted your
experience.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where you had to weigh up. So I kind of weighed up and went to a school that, I thought was going to be the best for me, like in the end. And also I didn't think I'd go pro, I'll be honest. Like my dad didn't let me go to the US unless it was for education. So unless it had a good curriculum, he was like, you're not going.
You know what's really interesting? When you brought up a little while back talking about the teachers just clocking in and out, I was watching something online the other day where, oddly enough, it was Rodney Mullen, this really famous skateboarder, doing this speech in front of people, and he was talking about the importance of valuing teachers and being a good teacher. He said, "Can anybody in this room like name the most recent Nobel Prize winner? Can anybody name the person who won, like, the most recent championship?" And nobody could answer. But like, could you remember the name of your first grade teacher? Like the
Mhm.
impact of those people those people on your life versus what everybody else values. Oh, this person won the Nobel Prize. Oh, this person's a champion athlete. Yet we put so little emphasis on these teachers, giving them like $30,000 a year. Yet they're the people
Yeah,
that are going to shape your life and impact your life for the rest of your life. And obviously, they've got a lot more hands-on time with you. But it made me think, like, when you like, I didn't. My education, I'll say, it was flimsy at best, and like, I never really valued my teachers, but because I don't think anybody valued them.
mm,
So they were just like a pass through in my entire life. And they probably could have been rewarded better, supported better, all that kind of stuff. So when you mention that stuff about education, it is pretty crazy to see how devalued the education system is.
that's true. But when I did win my medal, I did have 2 teachers that I went to school with and helped. Like one of them was one of the RE teachers, and one of them was the supply teacher, and one of them was like my senior like PE teacher, and they all messaged me. So they all do, like, and I messaged them saying, you know what, were a pinnacle part of my, at that age, like if I didn't do running, like I don't know where I'd be. Like they've helped map that route for me. So yeah, I did say thank you, and but you're right. Like I didn't even think about it until they messaged me, and they remember you. Like I was like, oh, I'm just going to be. There's a class of like 50 of us. They're not going to remember all of us, and that's another thing. They remember, like this has been like 15, 20 years later, and they've all like kind of remembered your successes because they were part of it, and they remember that. So yeah, they kind of made me.
I'm either going to show up at my school with a Lamborghini and do burnouts for about a half an hour straight, or get a bulldozer and take the school down. And nothing against
There's a
anybody,
fine
but
line between
I
them.
I do just need to make a statement and let them
Do
know.
both.
I'm
Do
like,
both. Turn up in the
I'll
Lamborghini and
show up
then bulldoze the place.
towing the Lamborghini with my bulldozer, and then once I do the burnouts, then I'll plow the school over, and then I'll jump it. Uh,
Nah, your
they
school made you who you are. Like, you know.
I hold nothing against anybody. They actually did make me who we are, but they all did tell me that I was really not going to amount to anything. And
Yeah,
I
fair.
think about them all the time, and I say, hey, one day we will see each other in a parking lot, and you best be ready, bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good. I really hold no resentment towards them. It actually just is fuel on the fire towards life.
I got a question for you, Holly.
Yeah, hit it.
Yeah.
Because training is so rigorous and you're there on scholarship, I would assume, like you were
Mhm.
saying, you can't do some of the activities that the other students are doing. So
Mm.
because you were so bogged down and training focused, did you get to experience college life as, get
Of course I
like a
did.
full
Of
college
course
experience
I
and go to
did.
football game? All right, good.
I just have to do it under the radar.
Yeah.
Coming from, oh, well, it's coming from Europe, like we drink at the age of like 14, 15.
Well,
Yeah, like it's just a different breed over here. And obviously you can drink at 18, so that's legal. So of course, if you can drink at 18, people are finding a way to drink at 16, 17 or get into a club. But over there, the drinking age was 21, so it was a shock to me. So I'd already been allowed to drink, and then I had to go to the US. But honestly, it was like a spade in the face when I got there. I was so shocked at the culture. Like it was honestly, I thought I'd stepped into a film. And I guess it's like when Americans or they come to Europe and it's so old and traditional and like it's a different vibe when you come to Europe. Like you walk to a bakery or whatever and like everything's kind of old. When you go to America, they're like, oh, it's like I'm in a fantasy. Well, it's the same for us when we go to America. Because like when I got there, went to my first like red party, and I was so excited for a red solo cup. I just could not wait, like to play like beer pong and those kinds of things. And like
We do it right when it comes to partying.
yeah, it's
Flip cup.
yeah,
Come on,
flip
talk shit,
cup.
dude. We do
Yeah,
it better than everybody.
the fraternities and sororities were questionable. I was a little like taken back by that. Like that shit's heavy. That was like
Did you join a sorority?
I couldn't join
Probably
a sorority because it's too much. Like there's so many things that it's not just about partying, is it? You have to like be event management and like each person in the sorority has to take on a role and they have to set up like different things as part of like the group. But
it's very well organized alcoholism. But I'll say, dude, if you are part of a fraternity or sorority and you use it properly, like some people just use it as like a built-in party system. You do have this whole legacy system where they are immediately set up into jobs, connections, all sorts of infrastructure.
That's the bit I didn't like. This girl who was in my room, who was you share like a dorm like with 2 or 4.
It's a cold dorm.
We had 4 people and we shared the middle bathroom, right? And there was this girl, bless her, and she obviously, like, no offense, but she didn't have much going for her. Like, she wasn't the prettiest girl. She was a little thick. She wasn't good at sport. You know, she struggled a little bit in that area. She wasn't very confident, but she was rushing. So, you know, she was rushing, and then like this is something that I was all learning. And I was like, oh, how'd it go? Like, I literally been there for like 6 months at that point. I'm like 19, super jealous. I was like, oh, I want to join a sorority at that point. This is before I like kind of didn't really like it. And then she came back and she was like, oh, I didn't make this in this house because I wore Uggs. And I was like, whoa, like that is horrible. She was like, oh yeah, they have a PowerPoint on you. They have a PowerPoint on you. They know where your dad works. They know what you're going to bring to the house. They're like, oh,
that's brilliant though.
It's brilliant. But it is, but you're cutting somebody out based upon like you're not.
What are you talking about? You wouldn't have made it to school if you didn't all of a sudden run fast and probably have some kind of pizzazz to you. So you went through a filtration system to get into school.
Yeah, but not based upon my mom and dad, not based upon like these girls were like, oh, your mom works for Tory Burch.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. These schools probably are looking at you and they probably have data points on you that you're not willing to admit. Just because you can run doesn't mean you're good for the team.
No, that's the only reason that I got into the team. I didn't even pass hardly the SAT.
But I'm saying you probably were so good that they were willing to look over that. But there's definitely metrics to all of these things.
Yeah, no, but okay, fine. I'm not completely against fraternities and sororities. There's good points, but there's also bad points. Like it's a culture. It's a culture. It's a cult. It's there's a lot of things. And maybe I just didn't like it because I couldn't be in one. Maybe if I was in one, I'd be totally different.
I love to talk shit. I love to talk shit about things I'm not involved in. Makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
So who taught you like the fundamentals of running, or was it something that it was just like, just keep on showing up and you'll just get better with time? Or was there somebody who was your like pinnacle, like you look back and you're like, that was the person?
Yeah, it's a difficult question because like running isn't something like, it's not something you can get taught. I don't think it's something that's within you or not. Like either you're willing to be uncomfortable, go out and run, or you're not. Like, and the more you do it, the more you do anything, the better you get. The better your form gets, the better you understand like hills and core is what helps you have a better like technique. And you know, the more you do those things, the better you get at it.
Well, what about the person that taught you like running form? Because you got, you know, Phoebe from Friends running cross side, and then you know you got to run like this is how you lean forward. You know, like any techniques or tips of a person that was your focal point?
I think that comes from drills. Honestly, I think form comes from drills. So the more drills you do, the better you learn how to control fast feet and movement and getting your foot on the ground as quick as possible. Your arms follow, and it's actually like a strength it's a strengthening and conditioning routine before you run. And I think over the period of 15 years of being able to do drills really well and hills and strides have made my running form better, but that doesn't make you faster. It makes you more, what's the word? It makes you more efficient, like, and better, your strides better, and you're not like putting all the energy side and left. But I think, yeah, when I was like 12, I wouldn't say that coach taught me everything I knew. I think it's the accumulation of 10 years of doing drills, getting in the gym, going out for runs, averaging 70 miles a week, whatever, for the last 10 years.
Flying. Sorry, go ahead.
Go on.
No, I was just saying, I'm flying. I believe so much in this stuff. I'm flying Holly out to come meet Rich Diaz, and we're going to get her buffed up for next season.
Here we go.
All right.
You're going to be all biceps, but you're going to win.
All right.
Yeah.
No, don't.
How's that keto diet treating you, by the way?
We don't run. We don't do anything with our arms, remember?
How's that keto diet treating you?
I had eggs and ham for lunch today, and no, I didn't. I'm off of it already.
Holly called me in a stir the other day. She goes, I think I'm going keto. And I was like,
oh, no.
You should stop talking.
Just what people talk about is the keto breath. When your body gets in full ketosis,
I think you have to be there for like 3 days. I lasted like 3 hours.
Yeah.
It was more of like I wanted to cut sugar out because I feel like I'm addicted to sugar. Like I literally cannot not have sugar.
My body is built by sugar.
McDonald's is a staple in your diet. There's got to be sugar in there.
Don't get me all revved up, dude. Don't say McDonald's like that. Oh shit, dude. Don't bring up McDonald's this early in the morning. You get me twisted. So you get out of college. Do you feel like you accomplished what you wanted to in college?
No, not at all. Yes and no. Yes and no. I got a degree. I did a master's. I didn't make the NCAA final in Oregon. The big championships where you have to be placed top 24 in the country. Didn't make it. And I made regionals, which is like the half of the country, but I never made NCAAs. But you know what? I did the best I could. I trained how a college athlete trained. I put everything I could towards it, and that was the best I gave. I came home and I was like, right, I need to put my degree into good use. I got a master's in marketing and business, so I got a job in pharmaceuticals. So I worked for a startup company that turns like basically generic drugs that are just like tablets into something more like for example, we worked a lot on a drug that like changed it to like strawberry flavor for babies and like turned it into like a liquid like form to help babies like when they're literally just been born. So it's not a powder that because there's some drugs out there that are so like just not got enough investment because they're so like rare disease drugs that there was like tablets that you had to put in applesauce for babies and stuff. So this company, the guy I worked for, and this is pinnacle in how I went pro. The guy I worked with, his name was James Harrison. He was the owner of the startup, and he created the startup because one of his close friends died of cancer, and his life is set to like he wants to use every ounce of money he makes from this pharmaceutical startup into research into cancer. That's his passion. That's what he enjoys, but he needs money to do that. So he created this startup. We take generic drugs for rare diseases. We make them more efficient for children, adults, whatever it is. Like Alzheimer's, like we turned it into a patch so you don't wake up in the morning and like shaking, just all these different things like that. So I was in charge of like marketing, like doing the websites, getting videos created, setting up a YouTube, like all of those things. And honestly, I loved it. So I did that for 4 years. And James does cycling and running, and like I was like always running in my lunch break still and after work. So I never would just do after work, I'd go to the club and run. I also would run in my lunch break, do a like shakeout run, get changed, eat at my desk, and then go out again at 6:30. And I did that for 3 or 4 years. And then when I started hitting a patch of form, I was like, I think I could like medal at my nationals. Like, I think I could like take on the pros, and I think I could medal. And it took some balls, but I had to basically go in front of my CEO, who is Italian at this point, and all he cares about is like money, making money for the company. He doesn't get the run inside. James owned the business, but he hired a CEO, Italian guy, to basically run the business. So James didn't have anything to do with it. He just took the money for the research. James got me, understood me. So I went to James first. I was like, James, like, I think I want to like try and go pro. Can you help? And he was like, look, I'll support you no matter what. Like, you're a good person. Like, I'm going to help you. And I was like, okay. He's like, but you need to go and ask Antonio. He owns the company. He's the CEO. I was like, oh, okay. So I sat in his office and I asked for like 30 minutes of his time. And I was 23. I was 24. I was 24. And I was just a marketing associate. And, you know, this blonde little bimbo that walks in like with a pencil skirt. And I wasn't a bimbo, but, you know, I kind of was like, I just enjoyed work. Like I was just like somebody that everyone come to talk to. And like, I don't know, I wasn't too serious about work. I was, you know, serious about training. So I go up to Antonio and I go, I think I'm going to go pro. And this guy didn't have a clue what I was talking about. He's like, okay. He was like, do you think you can make the Olympics? And I was like, just say yes, just say yes. Yeah. I was like, yeah, I can make it. Like knowing full well I was nowhere near that. You need to like win a medal at your nationals before you can even think about the Olympics. I was nowhere near that. I think I came 8th at my last nationals, like 8th in the country, which do not get a look in. Like no one remembers who comes 8th. No one remembers who comes 5th. No one really remembers who comes 4th. Like you need to medal. Like they're the people that people remember. So I had to sit there and I said like, right. And he was like, well, what do you need? And I said, I need money for support to fly to altitude, to stay there for 4 weeks, to get the boost, to come back to win my nationals. And he was like, huh? So it's like, go away and come back with what you want. So I went away and I wrote a spreadsheet and I was like, right, I want to go away on this date to this date. And I want to work remotely in a different country on a different time zone from this time to this time. But I'm going to get up at like 4 a.m. and got up at 4 a.m. every single day, worked at 5 till 9, went and ran with the group I was with in Flagstaff. So this did end up getting approved. But basically I had to go in and say, right, I want $5,000. I want to be the companies. I want you to support me and I want to go and do this. And he was like, yeah, fine. Just get your line manager to do it. So I was like, okay. So I had to ask my line manager. And that was the hardest one because she was again, because I was helping her mostly. So she was like, well, you need to be up at 4 a.m. and we need to have meetings at 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. every day. And I was like, fine, I'll do it. So they approved it. And then, then I went and did altitude camp. I was in Flagstaff and I did 4 weeks there, got the finances approved, ran for my company and then medaled. So I actually pulled it out the bag. But
were they pumped?
Yeah, they were so pumped. Yeah, they were really
awesome.
pumped. And then afterwards, I was still working full time when I won the medal. I was still working like 40, 50 hours a week. And I was doing that full time. And then I was like, okay, I've got 3 months until the Olympics. So I then asked to go part-time and I still worked part-time. And then I went back out to the US and continued working part-time. So I can still fund myself, but I like just did enough to get me by rather than making a profit, if that makes sense. And I did that until the Olympic trials.
There's 2 takeaways I get from this. 1, you had an incredible company. That's very cool. That is very cool. 2,
startup. Always go startup.
I'm way too easy of a boss. People, I give them all this time off, never ask any questions. Just go away, Ryan. Go have fun. Go party, whatever the heck you want to do.
But come back when you're hungover and you will work.
I did tell Ryan that one time.
I believe the quote was, we don't take a day off when we're hungover. We work.
That's true because I drink harder than the rest of us. And I show up and I will touch the keyboard like this if I have to, 1 letter at a time, and get my emails done. But I don't care. My whole team can get fucked, absolutely trashed. And as long as they show up, they're good.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I had to like sell. I was like, as long as I do my work, it shouldn't matter where I'm training and what I'm doing.
I'm a believer in that too.
Yeah.
So going back, I just want to look at the college thing because I think this is such an important stage of athletes' lives. I see this humongous, this divergence of athletes and their capabilities and their momentum. There are athletes that I knew in college that were far better than me, far better. But then they just hit this wall at the end and they're like, it's over from here on out. Yet I feel like so many people's potential actually happens after college because I often think that the divide of putting time into school, putting time into partying, putting time into chicks, and trying to put time into sport you're looking at taking 4 things, dividing it 4 ways. Even if something gets more emphasis than the rest, it's still dividing your time. I particularly left college because I recognized I didn't give a shit about studying. I wanted to be a stud. That's all I cared about. I didn't even know I wanted to be an athlete. I just knew that I wanted to be more fit than everybody else. So I went and did modeling and all sorts of other BS, which meant nothing. But at the time, I recognized how divided my time was. And my question to you is like, if you could go back, is there anything you would change? Or if there's anybody who's listening to this who's a college athlete and then is considering doing the pro thing afterwards, like, is there any advice you would have given yourself or would give to other people? Because I watched so many people reach that 4th year and then just drop it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, yes, and like, do I have any things that I would change? Yes, but also no, because when I look at that question, I'm like, I wouldn't be here right now doing this if I'd maybe potentially gone somewhere else. Do you know what I mean? So I would go back and change. Maybe I'd go to a better running school. Maybe I'd believe in myself more. Maybe I would go on more summer camps, like altitude camps in the summer when I had time to, instead of like wanting to come home to the UK so badly to see friends and family that now are no longer, you know, like, well, friends that I just don't talk to anymore. But, you know, when you're 18, you're so desperate to go home and back to your old part of your life. And I think if I just stayed there, gone to camp and just like really put everything into it, maybe, you know, I would have turned pro at 22 instead of 27. Like that's 5 more years that I lost in the sport, in that, you know, because I turned pro so late. So if there was a way of me turning pro quicker, how would I have done that? And I think that would be training summer camps at altitude, learning how to like train with higher quality athletes, learning the game quicker instead of just buggering off home and going back to what you know and what's comfortable. But having said that, maybe like you said, maybe I would have burnt out. Maybe I would have been the NCAA champion. I would have done altitude for the first 2 years. Sophomore year would have been, you know, the greatest prodigy coming. And then maybe when I got to 23, I'm busted because I'm just like injured and just don't have the drive for it. So
Yeah.
there's things that I would maybe go back and tell, you know, you should like put more energy in this, but also like, you know, I was coming home and partying and, you know, hanging out with friends and just doing the bare minimum of training. And now I'd never do that. I'd be like, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. Like, get training, get in the gym, get more miles done, go to altitude, like meet people. Like, I would have done all of those things. But, you know, the way that it's panned out, I'm like, it's happened for the best in the end. That's how I'm going to view it. I'm not going to, don't want to change anything. But if I had to, maybe I would have believed in myself and done more camps earlier on and like just spent more time at my craft. Like,
it's interesting though, that burnout thing. I will never forget this. In around 2015, maybe, I went to this turkey trot that's very big in Rhode Island, and I took maybe 4th or 5th place, and I got smoked by a 15-year-old, and this kid was the size of my coffee cup. And at the time, like, I was a fucking stud. Like, I was running
5K or was it a 10K?
No, it was a 5 miler, and I was running 5:10, 5:15 miles with the time and my size. It was competitive. Like, I was the big guy at this event. Everybody else was a hobbit. And I got beat by this kid by like 4 seconds. Like, I was ahead of him and then he edged me out.
Do you remember his name?
No, I can't remember his name. Oh, dude, he broke the 4-minute mile in high school. Like, I found out later, my buddy Dennis was like, yo, you know that kid broke the 4-minute mile. Full ride to Stanford. Gets to Stanford, doesn't do shit. Just never gets anywhere. His dad was a wicked runner too. And it's just so crazy how like these people will bloom so early and then they just never get it back. And I don't know if it's a mental disease, a physical disease. Disease is probably the wrong word. A mental issue or a physical issue. But
I think it's both. And also it's more prominent in America because like there's
the
such
emphasis to run faster.
To get a full ride. And that sucks out the enjoyment because it becomes a chore. Because it comes like there's a purpose at the end of it that you need to do this to succeed. And if you get there, it's kind of like, oh, what do I do now? Whereas like coming from the UK, like obviously I wanted the full ride, but also university here is like, it's not as expensive. You know, we pay off student loans bit by bit. It's just done differently. So before even I went to uni used to be quite like $3,000 a year, like really cheap. So it wasn't that wasn't the sole reason why I went to the US. And I think you know, that's why the US actually recruit a lot of internationals, because a lot of people are like, why has our team got so many internationals on? That's why, because America, like once they get there, like the girls, as soon as they got to like senior year, done. I had so many talented teammates. One of my best friends, Shanoa Souza, actually her dad was a world champion by Kenny Souza. Look him up. He used to run with like Lance Armstrong and do duathlon. He's from California, San Diego, Carlsbad. And I went I visited him all the time because his daughter was incredible. She was like one of my best friends in college. And like she was like, no, I've grown up with this. My dad like wanted me to get a scholarship so bad. She was incredible. She would smoke me every time, and I would try. I'd be in the gym and running twice her miles. I'd get on the race day. She'd be down bloody In-N-Out burger and come back and then just be like 3 days, takes 3 days off, gets on the start line and absolutely smokes everyone. I'm like, Shanoa, I can't handle you. like stop. But she could have been so good to this day. I'm like, I always wish like I could have like changed her upbringing slightly to not be so around running and like more enjoying it. Because I think she would be one of the best.
Was she from the US?
Yeah, she's from California.
Okay,
Yeah.
Carlsbad. Yeah.
It's tough, man. You just can't tell. Like there was a documentary I used to watch about this kid that went and played USC for football as a quarterback, and he ended up playing for the Raiders. He was the #1 prodigy, the best quarterback there was, and his dad just drilled him in. By the end of like 2 years in his football career, he ended up starting to do heroin, dropped everything. Like the pressure just crushed him.
Yeah.
So you're obviously pro now. Like, I think it's super interesting for people to understand what pro athletics look like in the independent leagues. And I think I tell people all the time, people are like, dude, you're the #1 guy in the world. Yeah. Todd Marinovich. That is a crazy story, man. Go watch that. It is sad. It is sad. Like you're like, yeah, this is so cool. And it's like, my life.
Wait, what? What's it about? Like what?
It's about this guy who is the top football player in the nation. And this is probably 30 years ago, maybe less. But he was such a freak, and his dad pushed him so hard, went to USC, was as good as it got. And, you know, then all of a sudden then he goes pro and he's as good as it gets, but just the pressure eventually just destroyed him. He never
it's on a 30 for 30.
He should have been like a Tom Brady type. Yeah. But, you know, Tom Brady.
It's your head. The head side in sports is massive. It's 90% in running. 90%.
Yeah.
I think this happens a lot with US kids in baseball, because they go T-ball, and then once they get into whatever it's called, it's every summer. It's all summer. Parents are parked out, and then when they get to high school,
sorry, there's something in my throat.
No, but with every sport, it's about your head. It's about you. If you're a winner, it's about your head.
I say that all the time. We all got 6-packs, arms, thighs, and tries, but none of you got a brain.
Yeah.
So tell us about the pro life. I mean, you are really you're as top level as it can get, and the difference between obviously like first and third, it can be considered like an extra lap on the track. It might as well be. It feels like at times. And what's it like building this? You're an independent, like you're not part of a pro team from what I consider like here in the United States, like the Oregon, like the Nike project or whatever it's called.
So I still am, but I didn't like it. So I kind of fled the nest like a naughty child. But basically, okay, so I've always wanted to go pro, or like it's been my childhood dream. Like that's what you always want to do. Like, you know, since 12-year-old Holly, if you told her you're going to go pro, like she would have been like ecstatic. So literally I turned pro, but I turned pro on a sour note kind of thing. Like I missed the Olympics I know I'm not allowed to talk about this, but this is the last time I'll ever say it. Like I missed the Olympics by like 0.2 of a second. I came 4th at my trials. I just had a bad race. So how it works, how you make the Olympics is you have to come top 3 in your country and you have to have the standard. And that's usually how it goes. I came 4th, so I was out. And they took the girl that came 3rd, but I had beaten like basically on time, but it didn't matter because it mattered about that one race. You have to prove that you can race when it matters. And, you know, I scuffed it. So, but I scuffed it by 0.2 of a second. And So basically that was 2021, and I turned pro October of that year. So 3 or 4 after that, I laid in bed and I was like, I'm done. That's it. I literally sold my soul for 3 months. I literally didn't go out. I went to bed at 8 a.m. I only drank water. I ate clean. Like, I put so much emphasis on every single training session. I didn't just turn up. I turned up with a purpose. I was like, okay, what are we trying to get out of this training session though? Like, why are we trying to run these miles this quick? Like, everything was so like well thought out. Now I don't do that as much because it was exhausting. Quite frankly, it was exhausting. And I got to the end of it, didn't make the team, and I was like, you know what, I'm done. I'm gonna be done with running. Like, I give it a good shot. It was tough. I wasn't good enough. Like, I tried, and then went back to work. So I was working. I was at my desk, and I was like, oh, kind of miss it already. Like, I mean, I
This
still
is
could go back and
terrible.
train, but
8
I
to
just
5
didn't.
sucks.
Yeah, I missed that fight already. And I mean, I was already training, like, when I previously I was working and training after work, but I experienced training with pros and like being at camp and like really pushing yourself to the acts, like having all that free time and like being able to just run with groups of people that are Olympians was like, oh, this is a challenge. Like, whereas I'm used to training with like 40-year-olds after work, like 40-year-old men that just, like, can run the same 5K.
Bad dads.
They're great though. I love them. They're the best. They've got the best attitude. So anyway, I decided to go back. I just was like, you know what? I'm going to be done with running. I went back. I didn't get signed. When I went there, I got signed. So I put myself in an environment where pros were, in the hopes that a coach would be like, you're good enough, I'm going to sign you. So that's what happened. And I got signed, and basically I ran for Under Armour, and I'm still part of the Under Armour group in Flagstaff. So that is technically my group. However, I quickly established, when you become part of a group, you're like part of the crew, part of the ship, like you're just a working piece. And it did not suit me at all. So the training was designed for the person who is the fittest, and we all ran as a group. And you know what? Like, I was like, hang on a minute, like, this doesn't suit me in my training. This isn't suiting my, like, this isn't my VO2 max. This isn't my threshold pace. This isn't my lactic pace. Like, and then I ran myself in the ground because that's the only thing I know is run hard. Everything I run hard. I don't pull myself back, and I didn't pull myself back at altitude. So I ran myself into the ground. Bloods was screwed, got long COVID, was at altitude with long COVID, stayed there, and I just didn't like the way I was treated. Like, yes, I signed a contract, but it felt that, like, then like, no one was looking out for me. It didn't feel like I had that person going, okay, what's going on with Holly? Like, why is she not performing at her best? Or why is she not, what's going on with her? And I didn't have that. And that's why I left. I was like, do you know what? I'm going to go back to my club coach in the UK and actually have someone that understands me and wants the best for me. So I left, and it was I got in a little trouble for it. They wanted me to join the group in Baltimore, which is the head.
Don't go there. You'll get kidnapped.
No. And I was like, absolutely not. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to figure it out and train solo for a bit and go and do camps. I said, I'll go and do camps with the team and the group where I can just be there for short stints. So yeah, I've just been training with my best friend who's in San Diego. And I think that just suits me better. I just don't like the group. The group can work if you have people around you that like get you and are willing to, but the people around me were just, like, quite frankly, were too busy or just didn't care. They had other things.
Caring's the most important thing. You need to have an army of people that are all on the boat. And if you're not all rowing, then you get thrown off the fucking boat.
Yeah. So, and I think I tried so hard before because I wasn't signed, and like I tried to people please, and I tried to get there. And when I got there, like, then things started going wrong, and I just realized my team around me like didn't spot it. And like, when I screamed for help, almost like, hey, I'm struggling, like my bloods aren't right, like we need to change up my training, everyone was like, just get to training, just get to practice. And I was like, this isn't right. I'm not going to live my life like this. So I left the group, and I'm still running professionally for Under Armour, and I still talk to them and communicate with them, and I let them know, why it didn't work and that I don't want to join Baltimore. And I'm going to, move to the roads. I'm going to still support Under Armour. And if that's a problem, they're like, no, it's not a problem as long as you go back and go to camps, stay in contact. And as long as you're happy and performing, that's all we care about. So,
well, there's two examples. The guy that we just had on the show a week ago was this guy, Mark Allen. and he was the top triathlete in the world. And the guy that was beating him for the majority of the time, he was winning everything else except for the world championship. One of them trained independently in Northern California by himself, just like regimented, just about his style. He was an independent. He was hard as fuck. Then Mark Allen, he eventually became the best in the world. He trained in a group. He was all about the group, getting everything together. Like he had his system, but he trained in a group, and they're totally different people. And they had such different systems. Both of them ended up winning Ironman World Championship 6 times, totally different styles, but you know, each of their unique ways and processes of getting this thing done presented 6 world titles, which is crazy. You could just have the same event, 2 different people, 2 different styles, same amount of results, which I think is amazing because you can never prove what the true formula is. Like I personally,
you always think the grass is greener. You always think you go to what, you know, big groups tend to do better, especially with running, because you've always got company. You've always got somebody like running with you. And I saw Steve Magnus did a tweet the other day. He's a running coach from Houston. He's really good. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he has a book out as well. Check out some of his stuff. It's really good. It's like factual stuff, but he said like a study from Harvard or one of the study from the Ivy League schools said, you know, like if you're running up a hill with somebody, the rate of perception of how hard it is like 30% easier when you're just running with somebody. And so like I understand that mental side of things, like having somebody and having a group to support you. Like when you wake up every day and there's somebody there to like go and run with, it's just you just click in and you just do it. And to get yourself out there and do it on your own is a difficult thing. But if you've got your goal and support team around you in other areas strong enough, then you'll be able to do that because there's a goal in the end. So Joe, it just comes down to planning and having a good support circle and having like a why. I think it has more to do with a why, and you'll figure it out if your why is strong enough, whether you're in a group or whether you're independently, because there's pros and cons to both. If you're in a group, you're either running too hard or too slow as well. Whereas if you're on your own, you're going to go to your own pace. You're not going to push it that day because you feel tired. Whereas if you're in a group, you're just going to do what the group does, which is what I did. And then, you know, all of a sudden I was in a hole and then I'd gone too hard.
My breakthrough summer happened when I trained with 3 guys in the mountains of Colorado, and I had one guy that I did all my hard running with, and he was a freak, John Yatskow, and my running went through the roof. I just was unstoppable, and he used to whoop my ass all the time, and then all of a sudden, just him being by me, I started breaking through because the people I was used to running with, I was better than them. I was not used to running people better than me, and now all of a sudden, I had to leapfrog and beat him.
Yeah.
Which was crazy.
Because he had a target on his back. You were aiming for him. So like that just made you,
But then the way that things really broke down is he would pull out and not do the second session. He would do his own session. And then all of a sudden another guy would pull in and we'd do a bike session and a weightlifting session. So all I can say is maybe my advice to you or anybody who's listening to this is if you end up in group formulas, like there will be a fracturing of the group, still use the group as your center, but plug people in as you need them. Because like the way I train in California now is
make it about you. Make it about you, not about them. And
I've got my weightlifting team, my running team. I've got my biking team. They're all separate, but I have touch points with them all week long.
Yeah. See, that's what I didn't do. I wasn't selfish enough. I just put up with it. And like, do you know what I mean? I just kind of was like, I need to be more selfish and demand more here. I need to make this about me. Otherwise, I'm not going to get the best out of me. But
Holly, when you're the champ, you call the shots. So I'm just going to need you to start leveling up and get first place again.
Hey, have you seen what's going on with, I think it was maybe a past Olympic trial, but with Somalia? Somalia put their own runner over here, and it looked like Mom's Club that everyone else was Olympian athletes and Mom's Clubs from Somalia. It looks like that's the runner and she like skipped across the finish line, but now they're under investigate. What's going on with that?
So I haven't read into that, but basically, you know, at the Olympics, there's so many rounds and there's people that are running really, really slow. I don't know if you don't watch the finals. I'm talking about if you watch the 100-meter heats from any Olympics, you'll have some people from some countries that will run a 15-second 100. And they don't get televised because they're the heats, they're the pre-rounds. And usually, if you've got a qualifying standard, you'll find descendant. But each country is stronger. So the UK is a very, very strong country. So the top 3 are always like the ones that are going to end up in the top 8 and in the final.
Mhm.
Other countries, smaller countries, really like Mallorca or small islands, right? The pool of
Papua New
talent is,
Guinea,
Yeah.
but
it's a
they
total threat.
they still have the rights to send people to the Olympics because it depends on your governing body who you take. So UK athletics versus the American governing body, they have their selection criteria. They pick who they select. They pick the times, and them times are going to be different from the Spanish one, and they're going to be different from the French one, and they're going to be different from the British one because it all depends on the quality of your current athletes. So that I'm guessing Somalia, they have great endurance athletes, but their 100 meters, their sprinting, their 400, their one hurdles, you won't see many, if any, in a final of the 100 meter or the 200 meter or the 400 meter. And that's because their pool that they're not built like that. They haven't got the training facility for that, and they're just not as good in that area. So what's happened is they've probably had a quota to take somebody because every country has the right to take at least one, but their quota pool is just not as strong as the US and the UK. So it's kind of been a bit of a mockery. And I think what's happened is like, why are we having this in the sport? Like, this is not what it's about. Like, we have the best in the world here. What are we doing? This is just not what it's about. So I think it's more like that. And it does happen in the Olympics. And that's why sometimes people change allegiance. So a lot of the UK people go to Ireland. They get an Irish passport because it's easier to make the Olympics from Ireland. Like,
so Hogan wasn't that good.
What's that?
So Hogan wasn't that good.
Well, what did he go to the Olympics in?
He didn't go to the Olympics. I was just teasing. But he
But
was just a road runner.
But if I had like an Irish nan, I would change to be Irish, yeah, because the standard is like it was 4:08 for the 15, and the UK is 4:02. So it's like 6 seconds slower just from being from Ireland because
Might as well walk.
Well, the issue is you don't have many Irish people in the final, whereas you'll probably have 2 or 3 Americans and British because we're just so good. So at the end of the day, I wouldn't do that because if you want to do the sport properly, you want to be in the top 8 and you need to just be the best in the world anyway. So it encourages you to shoot for 4:02 instead of 4:08. But at the same time, like, that's why it happens. Depending on where you're from, the level of ability and quota will, do you know what I mean? So I think Somalia, they're just not strong in sprinting, and that's who they had, that's who they selected, and it was a bit of a joke. We're like, what are we doing here? I might be wrong. You might be wrong. I have to read the article, but from just seeing a few Instagram posts, that's what I gathered from it.
Tell us about
information. Yeah,
we've beaten a dead horse on this whole circle thing, running around in circles. I really want to know about the leap to the road. What's going on here, Holly? Are you going to be the next street beater?
Oh, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I don't want to say goodbye to the track just yet because I've still got unfinished business, I think.
That circle's always going to be there.
It is. But the more you train, yes, I'm going to do the roads because if you're a strong 5K runner, you're a strong 1500 meter runner. If you're a strong 5K runner, you're a strong 10K runner. It's just, they just come hand in hand.
Haile Gebrselassie. I don't want to hear any excuses.
Oh, look, you've done your research.
I don't need to research. Haile Gebrselassie, you don't even need to know anything about running. He just is a god king. That dude had 27 world records at one point in time, all standing at the same time.
And he could do the 800 all the way up to like the 10K at a quality standard.
No, I think he held the record of the marathon and the 800 at the same time.
Yeah, and exactly. And Sifan Hassan, questionable because of drugs, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Cheater!
Yeah, I'll call it out now. In 20 years' time, she's part of the Oregon Project. Like, it's anyway. There's
a lot of politics involved, isn't there, Holly?
That's so much. Agents in Kenya, Ethiopia, they will give their athletes drugs because they're making money. Nothing happens if you take drugs and you're from Kenya. You feed your village and you make some schools because you won a race. You come back as a hero. You do that in the US or the UK, you come back as a traitor. Like, you can't get busted for drugs. Like, you come back with a tarnished reputation and probably a ban. They get banned. They don't care. They've made 10 grand and they're a hero in their village. They've done their job.
Lance Armstrong is a saint. I'll say it right now.
I
Lance
kind of
Armstrong
agree.
is
I
saying,
kind of disagree.
come on, dude.
Go on,
From a
go
standpoint of the
explain.
things that he did for
Explain.
sports, explain myself.
The bands alone.
From an
brought America
economic
together.
standpoint, from funding cancer research standpoint, for making a sport that nobody gave a fuck about standpoint, from putting
disagree
the,
that you could debate. People still
not in the
care about
United
Tour de
States,
France.
not in the United States.
Yeah, only because
Like
it was a
this,
massive law case that drew
the
attention.
same way that Messi is going to make soccer big in the United States, Lance Armstrong is going to be the person who basically brought cycling to the United States. And the dude was at the frontier making a sport not only exciting but electric. The dude was a freak. And
But
if you
there
look
was
at
fraud involved. There was fraud involved.
they're all
There's fraud involved
everybody
in everything. I'd agree. There's fraud in banking. Yeah, fair.
It's easy to, if you're going hunting, it's easy to aim the gun at the biggest bull. He was the biggest bull by far. So why everyone's going for that 10-point buck? And that's what they wanted. They wanted to take down the top dog. In reality, that dude was doing what everybody else was doing. I mean, dude, fucking A. I don't give a shit about baseball, but I'll still watch highlights from when those guys were during the steroid era blasting balls out. They made baseball exciting. Yeah. And everyone's like, oh, you're such a loser. I'm like, shut up. You remember when you were in the stands watching that thing getting blasted out of the park? You were having a blast. Leave the dude alone.
I would agree with that.
You asked the average person. I was just going to say, name one other cyclist that's amazing. And name a cyclist. You think instant, Lance Armstrong.
Nobody can.
Second.
Yeah, he's a saint, and what he did, you know what? He's basically Jesus Christ. They took him, they pounded him to the cross, and killed the fucker. And in reality, dude,
you had some good points, and but
I'm telling you the truth. I love the guy.
No, I agree with majority of it. I do, and also everybody was. Now it's come to light that it was clear that everyone was on it, and he was still the best. So the fact that everyone was doping, they're still on an even ground. So, and he was still far better than everyone else, but his teammates were doing it. Why weren't they beating him? Because he still had.
And then they all wrote in their little diaries, books about it, like, "Oh, Lance made me cheat too." Oh, my wife's so angry at me because Lance spanked me and made me put a needle in my butt. Like, you're a grown ass man. Get out of here.
Yeah. So it happens in cycling. It happens in running, and it's an odd world as well. You just gotta
what's
not
interesting is how many of you pro runners are asthmatic.
Exactly.
Dude, that is such a joke. I cannot believe like that. It's so
asthmatic and have irregular thyroid.
Thyroids. It is so insane how the governing bodies of these large track and field companies are just being like, yeah, you know what? That's super sad that you are having asthma responses. Let me just sign off on you having something that will increase your lung capacity by 10%. And then, you're having thyroid issues. Let me sign off on another thing and help boost the shit out of your performances. I mean, listen, I remember asthmatic kids in high school and middle school. They might as well been dead on the streets. Like, they could not get anywhere without having some kind of medically enhanced issue. They lived by their inhaler.
I have an inhaler.
Yeah, but you're not the number one runner, one of the number one runners per distance in the world.
Yeah, like what's his name? Alberto Salazar, the head of the Oregon Project, who got.
Is he still the head?
No, he's banned, lifetime ban, and
that guy should be strung up behind a truck and dragged.
Nike backed him. Nike backed him in court cases for years, and they knew what he was doing. They had all the reports on what he was doing. He was using steroid cream on his son to see how much of it he could put on his son without it getting caught with a drug test. Like, there was the things he was doing, and Nike knew all of it, and they still backed him. So I don't like Nike for that till this day.
If you read any of these books about, the Tour de France and what was going on, all these companies that were part of funding this knew that these guys were doing these things. They just kept on turning a blind eye and collecting money.
Yeah.
Everybody was getting elevated.
But like you said, it's a business. It's fraud. Fraud's everywhere. It's happening in banks. It happens in every course of life. If there's a shortcut, you're going to take it. if it means like the payout's bigger than the risk, so they took that. And I'm not like saying that you should do it. I'm completely against it, but that's the issue with the sport right now, is it's not a level playing ground. And it's basically now about who's willing to do it and who's in the bigger circles to get hold of. Like, I couldn't get on asthma because I'm in the UK and like the NHS is stingy as hell. You go private in the US, you can get on asthma straight away. You can get on thyroid straight away. Whatever you need, here you go. Here's a shot of vitamin D. Here's a shot of magnesium. Whereas over here, no, you have to go through your GP and they have to approve it. And if you're fine, then, if you're not dying, then you won't get it. So it's a tough one. It's like, who's willing to then take these risks for the reward? And me, I'm not prepared. I'd
You have a life outside of running.
Huh?
You have a life outside of running, and a lot of these people don't.
And also, I'd rather, like, how many people who won the 1500 meters in 2012? Like, you can't name them, like, so like, it matters to me about my journey is like about the people that I meet and me pushing my potential to the best, rather than like winning everything, because you could go and win everything and you can be a complete asshole and still no one will remember you, and your journey's been corrupt and awful, so because we know who's on drugs on the start line. I know which girls are on it. You can tell their body's like dehydrated,
got a lot of chest hair,
the big old jawline. No, you just kind of know like who's on it, and you just won't associate yourself with them. And I just think, oh, I feel sorry for you. Like, what if this is as much as you're going to do to be good at something? Like, good for you. I'm going to go do other things and like just be like, it might mean that I don't win a gold because I'm not prepared to take drugs, but I'll take that hit, because who remembers the 1500 meter like silver, bronze medalist from even Rio? Even me, I can't even name like all of them. So, and that's my sport. So, it's not worth the risk in my opinion.
2016 was shit. The guy from the United States, then Jakob Ingebrigtsen. What's that?
I know who it was in the US, but I know the guy. Yeah, I know Matt Setchwitz.
Yeah, but he used to train in Park City. I'd see him.
Hunter, you got somebody next year competing with you, and all of a sudden they're creeping up they're on your heels, right next to you competing, and they pass you up and they get first. Are you calling out? Hey,
I wouldn't call it out, but what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to fund. From builder side of things, I'm going to fund drug testing at some of the major events next year, and people can participate and come piss in a cup, and I'll pay for it all.
Yeah.
And that will probably send...
Drug tests are prominent at Olympics, right? But what happens is these athletes are on drugs that are like masked by other drugs, and they don't have the research for it until 4-8 years later. That's when they get busted.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's definitely going to be a lot of, our sport's still so tiny and there's not a lot of funding in it. Like, I also think that most of the people I compete with are too dumb to figure out how to do it properly.
Is there a lot in Hyrox? Is there a lot of drugs in Hyrox?
I don't know. I mean, listen, you can go get testosterone for probably under $200 a month, and testosterone is valuable. You could probably get yourself an inhaler, or you can get yourself that thyroid medication. Now, if you start to look at things like EPO, you're not going to be able to get to it. Not easily. If you look at things like peptides are really starting to become powerful. You could probably get to it because all these hormone companies are starting to pop up all over the United States. And we're not going to test for peptides. We don't have the capabilities of a cheap level of testing for peptides. And definitely, like, I wouldn't doubt. Like, I know that I've competed against guys in Highrocks that have been on it because I've talked to them afterwards and they were on it, but they're nowhere near me, so it's not like a big deal. So for me,
but until someone's on your tail, like Ryan said, if someone beats you and you're like, damn, they're on drugs, what are you gonna do?
I'll walk away because I'm rich.
Like, you second.
No, dude. I mean, listen, Hyrox, I made $30,000. I made last year off of sports, I made 19 grand. At this point, I'm just
it's all about,
I'm out here pounding nails in other people's coffins. Like, I'm just doing it for fun. There's nothing I have to prove anymore. And if somebody wants to cheat, it's like, yeah, it's flimsy, dude. Like, as soon as you as soon as you retire from this sport and you have to go back to reality of being a truck driver or whatever you're going to do on the side, like that's cool. But I'm far ahead of you because I did it the right way and I did it my way. So I don't give a shit. And I don't think anybody's close enough to me. Even if you did take the dope, dude, I'm going to grease the shit out of you out there.
I guess that's the thing. I guess that's the thing with Hyrox. Like, it takes more than just like steroids or EPO. It's putting it all together, like having all of it. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if the combination would even help. Whereas in running, you take EPO, it's just gonna make you better. It's just extra red blood cells. So it's like,
well,
I don't know.
all these people are at a pretty gosh darn high level. If I took EPO, it would drastically change things. If I took,
for Hyrox?
Yeah, dude, erythropoietin is just something that it just changes the blood volume. Blood volume changes the oxygen volume. Oxygen means you're changing the capacity of being able to travel harder. So that's it. If you take somebody and all of a sudden you add a couple more, like, you can take right now a car and you can change the ECU, which is the electric computer unit, and you can change the fuel injectors and then the oxygen flow. And now all of a sudden you can take a basic car that has 200 horsepower and bring it up to 300 horsepower very easily. So for anybody who just needs a little bit of a comparison, that's all EPO is. You're increasing your oxygen capabilities, and, fuel injectors, it's just oxygen getting pumped to the muscles that need to do work. ECU is your brain, though, so you don't replace that thing. But my point is if you really want to move the needle on things, it's not hard. I just don't know if people are really doing it.
Well, going back to what you said, like, am I moving to the roads? That's my biggest turn off, is the amount of Kenyans, Ethiopians dominating that I'm just wary about, and it takes the tarnish off things, basically. But
you could be the greatest person in Great Britain, at least, don't you think?
No, there's some Ailish McColgan running really well. I could be up there if I need a couple of years. I've already run a 72 half, and I think I can run a 70 with the right training and the right build and putting some more time into it. Everything takes time. Like, it's not going to happen overnight. I know how long it took me to like get it right for the 15, and it's going to take not as long, but I know what I need to do for the half to run a 70. But that's what it's going to take to then. I need to run a 70 before I'll do a marathon, because when I want to do a marathon, I want to break 2:30.
What's the best half marathon in Great Britain right now?
Ailish McColgan, 65 high.
Holy shiznizzle. That's a chick?
Yeah.
Does she have an Adam's apple?
No.
A lot like a dude.
She won Commonwealth 10K. She's run a good 5K. I wonder what's her 5K time. I think she's run like 14:20 something for a 5K as a chick. Yeah. So we are talking like the top end in the UK is strong. It's the same as the top end in the US. You've got Sarah Hall, you've got Kira D'Amato. They're running 67 half, 66.
These girls are so vicious, dude. That would beat the pants off me by a large margin.
Are you saying for road races like the Kachobis are, and maybe not him, but the people that are following him, to be at that competitive level, they may be taking things that are masked by other things?
I can't speculate and I can't slander, but to be honest,
can. Yes.
To be honest, based upon their setup, their situation, yeah. Like, there's recently a guy called Jake Robertson from New Zealand, and he's been living in Kenya, and it's just a red flag if you're in Kenya. Why are you in Kenya? There's just rice and no internet. Like, why would you be there? Like, no offense, but for training, like,
dude, there's a book on this, Running with the Kenyans. A journalist moved there and ran with the Kenyans, and you get to understand their running culture. It's the reason why I tell you to rest all the time. Go read that book and understand how Kenyans treat themselves. They go out and they do these mileage, and then they just sit in lawn chairs all day long, waiting for the next session. Doesn't matter. You can go pick up on their cultural existence, and you can understand why they're so good at running. Some of it might be enhanced, some of it might be style, some of it might be
evolution. It's their form, it's the how their culture. Yeah, I agree. It's a good place. But if you're from New Zealand and you're moving to Kenya and then he did a podcast and he was just like, yeah, it was just in the fridge. Like, it was just like grabbing a glass of orange juice. It was just the culture. That's what you do. Like, that's.
I don't necessarily blame him. You don't really have a lot of opportunities coming out of there otherwise.
No, he said you know what? His podcast was really interesting. It was kind of not refreshing, but he just said it how it was. He was just like, look, it was 2020. I was going to lose my contract. Like, your brands put pressure on you. Everything's defined based upon performance, you know, making teams, running times, and lockdown. It messed up a lot for people. And when you're coming back, to get in these big diamond league races, you have to have fast times and you need the opportunity to get the fast times. So it's a catch-22. So he just said, you know, I was going to lose my sponsorship and, you know, I did what I had to do, but it doesn't make it okay. It doesn't make it okay. He was honest, but it then just like kind of was like, right, well, he's just said it open on a podcast that's what people do in Kenya. No, I'm going to cause problems here because not everyone goes to Kenya to do that. Like, I know people that have gone to Kenya that I trust and like they wouldn't do that. But for me, it's just a rife place that it's occurring, and like you could get mixed up in it. Is all I'm saying. If you're that type of character, so
if you think about these shoe contracts, these companies, if you think about it, what do you think they sell the most of? Basketball shoes, football cleats, or running shoes?
Depends on the brand, but
primarily running shoes.
And if you were launching, from
which brand sells the most?
No, I'm just saying, if you just think about it statistically, all brands blanket statement here. If you're thinking whether or not these
running shoe, everyone needs to run. Everyone needs to train. Everyone needs to stay fit. Everyone needs a pair of runners.
And if you're putting the big contracts for the big running events, the big marathons, the World Cup of marathoning type stuff, if you're putting shoes on these guys and you want to sell shoes, you want them to be record-breaking shoes. And if you want to be a record breaker with the big shoe contract, there's a lot of likelihood that you're going to do things to make sure that you're at the front of that ship. And I'm not guaranteeing that anybody's doing anything, but the fact that people get caught all the time goes to show that it's not uncommon. Like another big person just got caught in CrossFit for doping, and like these guys, they're not making nearly as much, not at the games, before the games, but they're not making nearly as much money as these runners are. And what they'll do to get a contract and get to the games, it's proven. I mean, these people are just getting caught left, right, and center doping. And these are only the people getting tested. You got to imagine when you add 10 to 15x the amount of money behind it for the contracts that are going towards running, you better believe it. And that's why I don't think Hyrox has that much doping, is because, man, dude, I'm the #1 guy in the world and I make more money working at CVS.
Yeah, fair. So if I go to the roads, it's more of a business decision. And that's why I've spoke to you about this separately. Like, no one knows as many people on the track. No one can relate to a 1500 meter time, but people can relate to my half time. People are like, damn, you're quick when I say my 5K time, when I say my half marathon time. But actually, my quickest time is my 1500 meter time. But if I told you that, you're going to be like, oh, great, cool. Because no one gets that, because no one does that regularly. It's just not something everyone does. So the business side and the way I see it going is the roads, the 5Ks, the 10Ks, the halves. So that's something I would move to. Maybe a duathlon as well.
I say you join Team Street Meet. I want to see you out there on the streets just whooping the shit out of everybody.
What is it?
Street Meet. That's what I call, road runners. But you'll crush it, dude. It's going to be so much fun. You'll get to travel the world, go to some of these really big events, go to some great venues. Like, I'll admit, nobody I know can tell you when the next track and field event is or when the last one was. But when it comes up and it's like, hey, the Chicago Marathon's coming up soon, isn't it? Boston's coming up. Like, there's that girl, Nell Rojas, and she became the top American running Boston for the past couple of years. That girl went from off the radar to top level attention in the United States in the running industry.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's another path that I want to definitely explore. And
you'd be a star.
I've always wanted to do a marathon, but like to nail the halves first. And yeah, I don't want to do it half-assed. Like I want to properly do things. So it's going to take me a few years of getting it right and running a good half first and learning it. But yeah, it's definitely somewhere where I want to go. But if you look at these girls that are running well, like they're 38, 39. I got time. So I'm just like, I'm gonna, put it aside a little bit. I mean, the thing is with the marathon is you can do it after you've had kids. Like these women, they've had several kids,
Fuck these glasses.
Holly, you flying to Copenhagen and running the Ironman with whom?
Yeah, you gonna do the back half? Are you gonna pace me on the marathon?
There you go.
Your marathon, your half marathon time will be my Sunday long run jog.
There you go. I'll take it. I'll take it.
I'll do it.
So we've been cruising
you
this
can
thing
pace
for
them in your sleep.
For about an hour and 40 minutes, which is impressive.
Oh,
We've been having a good time, and no judgment. It's been awesome the whole time, but I think it's fair that we wrap this thing up.
Yes,
we all got to get on with our days. So we're pumped to see you on the roads. At least I am. Coming up, we got our Wednesday London Run Club. It's going to be we will be putting show notes out there, guys, so that you guys get the exact details. But Holly's going to be there. Tom's going to be there. Lee's going to be there. We're really making a big push in advancing what's going on with our team in London. We just had our pre-workout drop, and it's all about getting the right products in the hands of athletes that are going to help accelerate and increase their performances. We created this blend because most pre-workouts are designed for bodybuilders. This is the blend that's necessary so that you guys can get the performances you want, because taking some kind of pre-workout before you go do an endurance workout is not the right thing, guys. It's the right ingredients for the right performances, and I strongly believe in that. So please go check it out. There'll be tons of samples at our Run Club. Holly's going to be throwing down some heat, guys. So if you're trying to run some fast times, you got the fastest feet in the UK.
Let's start some fire here. You versus Holly versus Tom. Who's winning?
Holly.
And by how much?
Over what?
Any distance, basically.
Yeah, any distance.
I don't know. I can't actually comment because I don't know. I've not seen him run, or I've not seen his performance.
Do you think you can beat me?
In what distance?
1,500 to a marathon.
Yeah.
Okay, well then if you can beat me, then you can beat Tom, because I beat Tom.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I can do some research and see what Tom's ran for a 5K, and I'm pretty sure.
He's definitely had some insanely good times, but Tom's 42 now, 41. He was dropping those times in his 30s, early 30s.
Okay, but I am a woman, remember too.
Well, listen. Hey, we believe in equality, dude. We don't measure anything outside of times. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Mask on. I don't know who I'm running against. I just want to beat anybody. Listen, you did it when you were younger. Don't you remember this whole story that got you started?
Yeah, but that was pre-adolescents. These are 11-year-olds.
You got to beat the boys too. I don't want to hear any excuses.
No, fair. Anyway, I would back myself, obviously.
Well, we're excited to see this race. And we have basically our end of summer party coming up, guys, where in London, we are doing an all-day experience hosted by Builder. Every single section of the day is covered. We're doing breakfast, then we're doing a Lime bike rally, then we're going to go to Wit and have a workout, then we're going to have lunch, then Holly and I are hosting a 5K race in Hackney Park, and then last but not least, guys, we've rented out the bathhouse for the evening so that you guys can come to the sauna bathhouse, and we're going to have a ton of fun. After that, we go axe throwing and drinking beer. These are all my favorite things to do in London.
This is everything that we did when you were here.
I know. These are all my favorite things to do in London. So I'm inviting my favorite people, and I'm also inviting everybody else in our network to come out. So it is a tremendously good time, I promise. I know how to party. I know how to travel around London. I've got enough experience, but I've also got some really great people by my side.
Can I add to the itinerary?
Supercar riding?
No, can we go to Gales? Have you been to Gales?
What's that?
It's like a bakery, but they do the best almond croissant, chocolate almond croissant.
You gotta understand, as long as it's on the path, we're having breakfast. As long as it's on the path of the rally, we could get snacks.
Oh, there's Gales everywhere. I'll make it happen.
Perfect. So the team is designing this whole thing. We're gonna be sending out invitations for some of our VIP people, guys. Almost every single aspect of it's open-ended. You can all join, except for the WIT workout and the sauna house. There's going to be a select, I think we can only have 40 or 60 people in total to those things. So you have to sign up. Otherwise you cannot come.
But everything else is drop in, drop out for the day.
Yeah, dude. We'll probably have like 5,000 people on the line bikes. We're trying to take over the scene.
We'll have to rent out.
Dude, at one point in time, Tom and I somehow ended up in the middle of London, and we ended up in some kind of bike parade with tens of thousands of people. It was insane. So I want to do the same thing.
Yeah,
that was rad. All right. Holly, thank you so much for coming on. We're really excited about what you got going on Wednesday. And obviously, you know, we appreciate and we want to support in any way possible on our end. So thanks for showing up, guys. Thanks for tuning in. You guys all good?
Yes.
Holly, don't be lazy.
No,
beat Tom.
Yeah, beat Tom. Run some fast times.
I want you to come in first.
Yeah. All right, guys. I'm over and out. I got to take a piss. See ya.
Later.
All right. See you later. Thank you.
Bye.